school district community. We are less than 1 week away from the April 5th Board of Education election, and we've gathered here at FHC to give you the chance, the candidates, to inform the community about what qualities you would bring to the board should you be elected next Tuesday. The format for this evening will be as follows. Each candidate will give a 2-minute opening statement to share with the audience. And after that, Elisa and I will ask 5 questions of the candidates, which they will then have 2 to 3 minutes to respond to. When a candidate has 30 seconds remaining to answer time, I will inform them of such. And once these 5 questions have been answered, we're going to open the floor up to you, the community, to ask them questions if you have them at that time.
Once we have it up for questions, please wait for one of the students to bring you a microphone so the candidates can hear your question. Responses in this portion will also be limited to 2 minutes. We would like to remind everyone in attendance that this event will be streamed live on FHCtoday.com, FHNtoday.com, and FHHStoday.com, and that stream will be active for the next 30 days. Ms. Vice, are you ready for your introduction?
Good evening. Thank you very much for coming tonight and taking time out of your busy lives to take part in this. I think it's very important to be informed. I've been in education for 30 plus years. I decided to run for the board in 2010 because many different stakeholder groups and individuals asked me to seriously consider it. Since I've been on the board, I've been continually supported by the teachers, staff, administration, parents, businesses, and even my husband and daughters. I'm very cognizant of the balance of the needs by all the different stakeholders. My family, friends, and coworkers constantly remind me of those needs. I've been recognized and awarded by many groups, students, educational, and business. It's very comfortable to talk about these things. I usually don't talk about them, but since it is a campaign, I guess I should bring them up. Just last month, I was selected by the Ingram's Business Magazine of Kansas City, selected as an icon of education from multiple states for the efficient, effective, and creative ways in which I lead the School of Education educator preparation programs at Lindenwood. I'm actually even on the cover of that magazine with my colleagues. Lindenwood, as you know, is a very conservative school, so they're always looking for efficient and effective ways. I understand public, private, and charters. You may be surprised to know that as Dean for the School of Education, I also sponsor the Gateway Science Academy Charter School in St. Louis, which was recently state awarded for its high academic achievement. And these experiences have given me a lot of perspective on best practices and what healthy schools look like. I'm sorry, did you say my time was up? Oh, okay, great. At the end of the day, my goal is to make sure that the community is informed about all aspects of public education business. There's many levels of scrutiny and discernment that have to be taken into consideration. I can assure you that much thought, research, and detail goes into every decision I make on the board. I take every group into consideration, from future babies to senior citizens. I was always raised to treat others how you want to be treated.
That's time.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Ann Ranger. I grew up here in St. Charles, and then when I graduated from high school, I went away to college and majored in mathematics and English and earned a teaching credential to teach middle school or high school math or English. I have taught in public and private kindergarten through 8th grade schools, and I've taught in middle schools, I've taught in public and private universities, and in community colleges. While I was teaching, I eventually went back to get a master's degree in mathematics, and then later went on to continue my education with a doctorate in educational leadership from the University of Southern California. And the 4 foundational pillars of that program, the doctorate program I completed, those 4 pillars are student learning, accountability, school finance, and equity. And my specific research was around the topic of student success and retention, so how to keep students in school and how to promote their success. I have a lifetime of teaching. I've been teaching for 20 years, and teaching and helping students succeed to their fullest potential is my passion with my career. My husband and I moved back here to the St. Louis region 9 years ago, and when we bought our home here, one of my goals was to get an opportunity to serve the community through serving on the elected school board. And if elected, I will put student learning first, and I'm standing for accountability, family values, and student learning.
Yeah, I'm running to restore accountability, fiscal responsibility, and integrity to the Francis Howell School District. My name is Mike Kane, and I've lived in this district for the last 33 years with my wife Terry and our 3 children, Mike, Emily, and Amy. They all have graduated from Francis Howell High School in 02, 05, and 09, and I believe that they got a great education here. My wife and I spend countless hours at our children's schools providing support from their classroom parties in elementary school to PTO in middle school, to planning the all-nighters in Francis Howell, to cooking dinners for theater, keeping stats for coaches and games, and working at teachers' lunches, as well as I can't even count the number of times we worked in the concessional stand. We've always been involved. I have served on the Francis Howell School Board for 6 years, from 08 to 2014. That was when we provided reasonable pay increases, we rolled back tax rates, and we even were able to add to the district reserves. I've served on the communications committee, the district design team that planned and coordinated the construction projects from the building of the new Francis Howell High School to the science labs at Howell to remodeling of Daniel Boone and Cowsley and many other projects throughout the district. We were able to complete these projects on time, and most of them were done on the budget. I also served on the 21st Century Task Force, Safety Task Force, and the Facilities Committee. I care about the district, and I now have a grandson at Meadows Parkway. I'm running so that my grandson will have the same great educational experience that my children did at Francis Howell. We need to restore credibility, accountability, and integrity to Francis Howell District. Without a change, our kids will have diminished opportunities, our district will decline, and our property values will fall. I want to thank everybody for being here.
Good evening, I'm Michelle Walker. First off, I'm a parent. I have 3 kids in the schools currently. My youngest is at Hackman Road Early Childhood Center. He'll start kindergarten at Henderson in the fall. I've got a 1st grader at Henderson and a 6th grader at Hollenbeck. I'll tell you, it was an interesting experience decorating the locker at Hollenbeck, because I decorated my locker there almost 30 years ago. So I've been around the district for quite some time. The education that I received through the district helped me to go on, be successful in college, and then start my own business here in the community. I've also been involved with Francis Howell. When my daughter started kindergarten, I initially started with the PTO, and then decided to go a little bit further and serve on the Community Relations Committee for the district. So I've been serving there for about 5 years now, and I've been impressed by all of the community involvement that I do see. I'm a realtor, I own a real estate brokerage, and the #1 thing that we hear is I want to live in a good school district. And that's why 14 years ago when my husband and I decided where did we want to raise our family, we decided Francis Howell. We didn't decide St. Charles County, we decided serving your industry and your community. I don't have everything written down this evening, so bear with me if it takes me a moment to collect my thoughts, but I personally enjoy being able to have those conversations. So I appreciate you all being here this evening.
We're going to start question off of Ms. Ranger. Question number 1, explain your relationship with the community and the importance of it in your day-to-day life. What ties do you have to the community? What would you do to ensure that you are a contributing member of the district community if elected as a board member? Being on the Board of Education means to have your voice heard in district decision making, but also a lot of responsibility to make the decision best for the district at large. How would you go about doing that?
And a note before beginning, since this is a longer question, you'll have 3 minutes for your response.
Okay, I'm going to try to answer all of that in 3 minutes. I don't know if I'll make it, but I'll start by saying that as a teacher myself, and I've served throughout the different years, rotated through being a department chair. So that's in the college system, that's like being a part-time administrator and part-time teacher at the same time. So as a teacher myself, I have learned how to listen to students, how to listen to parents, how to listen to administrators, how to listen to other teachers, and how to listen to the community. And if I have the opportunity to serve on the board, I will listen to all stakeholders in our community and create as many open pathways for communication with our community as I can. To name a few, I will listen in person, I will listen through email, through social networking, because I believe that the purpose of the elected school board is to be a representative to you, the taxpayers, to the community. So it's important to listen. After listening to the community, I'll have the ability to apply my experience and knowledge to making decisions that put students first. What's best for student learning is always, every single time, always going to be what's best for the community and what's best for property values, what's best for everyone. We have to get into the habit of always saying that student learning comes first. So I'm an active question about how our activity in the community. I am an active member of the community. I'm an active member of Harvester Christian Church. I am an outgoing person and enjoy engaging with students. I enjoy engaging with the public and talking about school-related issues. If elected, I would seek out opportunities to engage in as many conversations as I can to understand what the community has to share with us, the board. And then when making decisions for our schools, I would be able to apply my knowledge, the knowledge that I have from my experience, the knowledge I have from my education, and the knowledge I have in how to research, how to do educational research. But I would take all of that knowledge and apply that to the information that I get from the community to make decisions that are informed and driven by the research and driven by what the community is saying. So I would use my ability to do educational research to find the research that helps improve our schools and keep our schools great, where we're already achieving really high, at really high levels. We want to keep that.
Time.
Okay, first of all, I hate having all the questions in advance because I end up writing all the answers down and end up reading more than talking. So when we get to the part where the open questions are, I'll be able to answer those from the heart. As always, answers are, from my heart what I truly stand for. As far as the questions, I do have my own business and still serve on many district committees. And as such, I have the time to devote to this job. This job does require a lot of time commitment. I have grandsons in the district, so I have a vested interest. My son-in-law and daughter are both high school teachers and coaches, so I have an understanding of what they have to go through on a daily basis. As a contributing member of the Board of Education, I will commit to attend all meetings and attend all my committee assignments. I will attend other school events throughout the district and will continue to help the district better its communication with the community, which is something we need to work on. I will be available for everyone and will listen to their questions and comments. Every decision that we make on the board has to be in the best interest of students. In order to make these decisions, you need to be informed and knowledgeable of the issues and the consequences, and more importantly, the unintended consequences of each decision that we make. The current board is dealing with the reality of spending money they didn't have and the unintended I will represent the kids, the taxpayers, and district employees. The decisions that we make will always be best for the district at large, and they are made for what is best for the entire community as a whole. That is why that's what a lot of people are missing about being a board member. It's not just about the district or the kids, it's about the entire community. This has to be factored in every decision we make. When I'm elected, I will be elected by the community, and the district must continue to be a good neighbor with the community. Working together, we can establish a win-win relationship with the patrons, the students, and our community at large. If we working together, and listening to each other, we can improve on things that make St. Charles County great, and the Francis Howell School District a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you.
All right, so that was written down, this will not be. My relationship with the community, it's the way I live. I sell homes in this community, so I am 100% vested in the success of our community. My paycheck depends on it. My livelihood, being able to feed my children, depends on the quality of our schools. I'm president-elect of the St. Charles Association of Realtors. I think that shows that the realtors in our community have faith in my abilities to stand for them, to represent their interests. The agents that work for me, same thing. Some of the things that I've done in the past in the community, I used to be a fair housing commissioner. That's a volunteer position in the city of St. Charles. And I didn't wait to be elected to serve in our school district. I started serving on the Community Relations Committee about 5 years ago. Met Mr. Hain, and a lot of people in the community as a result of that. Then I was asked to serve on the Strategic Planning Committee. When we had our centennial celebration last year, I was very, very involved in that. There's been a lot of things that the community has tried to do, but we never really were able to get any traction or support from the district. We are now starting to do some of these things. So it's really exciting. I went to the Senior Palace dinner last night, where we had like 30 senior citizens show up and actually tell us what they think about the schools. Give us their opinions. Share the ideas that they have on ways to save us money. We all know we've got a financial problem. Where it started, when it started, there's a whole lot of different things that have gone into that. What would I do to ensure that I'm a contributing member in the district community? I think my record stands for itself. I have been involved in this district for nearly 30 years. First as a student, then as a parent, and then I became involved as a volunteer. When Popeye failed, I got involved and started communicating with people, and we created something called FHSD Team. And that stands for Francis Howell School District. Together, everyone achieves more. And we held a community meeting. We invited as many people as we could get. I firmly believe that the only way forward is together. Being on the board means having a lot of power, to have your voice heard in the district decision making, but also a lot of responsibility. How would you go about doing that? I think I would talk to the community. I think that's what I've been doing since I got involved with the school district. I have been reaching out. I reach out across party lines. I am very nonpartisan. So one thing that I think is absolutely true.
Okay, so explain your relationship with the community and the importance of it in your day-to-day life. I've been involved with the Francis Howell community since I was in college, at Lindenwood actually, as a student. And I'm not texting people, and it's a timer. I'm trying to stay on there. My relationship started as a great love of this district as a student teacher. The dean at Lindenwood actually was Dr. Henderson, who had been a superintendent here, and he was also my student teacher supervisor and my instructor and advisor. And so I student taught at Henderson Elementary, and it was the most phenomenal experience of my life, and I wanted to teach here, and I knew that I wanted to be here as a community member from that point on. Other things would take me away from the community, but when we were able to come back to the community, I told my husband we have to live in the Francis Howell district, and so that was about 2005. So I've been here since then with 2 daughters in the district, one's a graduate and one's not, still in the 9th grade. What would I do if I were a contributing member? Even back at that point in time, I was contributing to the school district as a volunteer. Another just weird thing to talk about, we talk about awards. I worked at Vacation Station. I was actually awarded Vacation Station Employee of the Year. One reason for that is I volunteered over and above the amount of time I helped them actually through an accreditation process for before and after school care programs, because that's what I do. I'm an accreditation kind of a geek in education world. So what would I ensure that I'm still a contributing member? From that time in 2005 when I started working at Lindenwood, I actually started serving on committees as a Lindenwood faculty member for Francis Howell. That wasn't as a school board member. Of course, I continue to do that, being a board member since 2010. And I would continue to do so. I'm involved in my daughter's activities, of course, but I go to a lot of other events, such as the PALS events and such with the district, and would also continue to do that. What ties do I have to the community? I actually have ties to 2 different churches, believe it or not. Winsfield Christian and the First Baptist of Harvester. And those are long stories I'd love to share with you, but I can talk to you later about that. How would I go about the responsibility, making the best decision? It's as I talked about before. My father raised me to live a life that represents to whom much is given, much is expected. It's a nonpartisan, apolitical position, and I would make sure that I really meet the needs of everyone in the community, as I have been doing since 2010. I would continue to do that.
All right, for this question, we will start with Mr. Haynes. What do you think is the most important responsibility of any member of the Board of Education?
Well, I think one of the most important things we need to do is make sure that we're putting our kids first. We're responsible for the kids, but more importantly, we're responsible for providing the students and the children the tools necessary to succeed. It's their responsibility to use the tools that we provide to them, and whether or not they succeed or not, but it is our responsibility to make sure that you have the tools necessary. And we have to do all this in the confines of the budget. I keep talking about the budget, but we've got a major problem in this district, and it's because of the budget. I'm sure we'll cover more on that later, but you'll hear most of my things refer to the issues at hand. And the budget is a problem for our district. We're losing teachers, which isn't good for student education. But I would represent all parts of the district, and getting back more to the question, I would represent all parts of the district. I would represent the students, I represent the parents and the taxpayers, and we need to be more accountable to the community as a whole. We need to listen more. One of the things I think we do is we, the board as a whole, has made decisions and moved forward with things without being truly in touch with the community and without truly listening to what the community wants. I think that the community, if we listen to them, will tell us which way to go, and we'll be very
30
successful.
seconds.
Thank you.
You don't want your last 30 seconds? So what do I think is the most important responsibility? I think it's the same responsibility for all of us, whether we're on the board, whether we serve in the community, in our daily lives, and that's honesty. I think that we have got to be honest with our community. When they went out last year for a tax increase, there were a lot of misinformation that was spread in our community. A lot of damage done by those lies. And our kids will suffer. We've lost teachers. We are cutting. We can't keep cutting. Where will the cutting stop? And I think that if we can all be honest and work together, treat others as you would like to be treated, follow the golden rule, and ask the community. The community spoke in August very loud and clear. They gave us the answer. They said, absolutely not. Don't raise my taxes. I don't know anybody that wants to pay more in taxes. I certainly don't. My sister, who owns multiple houses in the district, certainly does not. But I also don't want to fear that 2 years from now, we're a distressed school district. Our credit ratings go down, our interest rates go up. We have all kinds of issues. And so I think if we can honestly work together,
30 seconds.
we will be able to achieve the continued success of our schools. So I would say honesty is the number one responsibility of all of us, whether you're on the board or whether you're just a patron.
Okay, so I agree with the honesty part, but I'm going to go back to the things that I used to have in my office when I was a school counselor. It was, is it good for kids? That was always the first question. And why was that my first question? Because if it wasn't good for kids, then it wasn't going to be good for our community when those kids grew up. And whether I'm a kid or a parent or even somebody that doesn't have kids yet or a senior citizen, I want to make sure that our kids are growing up to be valuable community contributors. I think that the education is the most important, and that is what I've always looked at. Is it good for kids? The honesty factor is absolute. You will hear many things. I would just ask and remind you that all work sessions of the board are videotaped. Voting records are public. I would just encourage you to make sure you're an informed voter and listen to what could be long and tedious videotapes, but if you really want to know the truth of the conversations that took place at any points in time, it would be very enlightening for you, because what you might hear might not always be what really took place. So discernment, the ability to listen to the facts given to you and make decisions again, what's good for the kids. Discernment to understand what's true and what might not be true. Also an understanding of school finance, which is not an easy thing to understand. And understanding that we haven't been supported by the state in years. And so having a full understanding of that, having the background that I do, it's still difficult for me, I can tell you. It's probably one thing that makes me still continue to feel pretty dumb, is to try to understand state school finance. It's one of the most complex things to understand that there is in public education. But having a discernment. Thank you.
What I believe is the most important responsibility of any member of the Board of Education is to remember our purpose. The purpose of the elected school board is to be your representative, to be the representative of the taxpayers to the school system. I believe that this is a beautiful form of governmental checks and balances, and I appreciate the folks in our history who set up such a system. It's taxpayers are responsible for paying for these schools, and taxpayers have the right to have representation on how that money is spent and how that money is working for the community. So I believe that it's the responsibility of a school board to listen to the community, and a board member is not elected to represent any special interest group. I know that I get beaten up and torn down for saying this, but I have to say, even though I am a teacher, I do not believe that it's the purpose of an elected board to represent the teachers as a whole. It's the role of the board, the most important responsibility is to represent the taxpayers and look for what's best for the students. Rather than beat around the bush, let me be really clear what I mean when I say that. No matter how well deserved it may be, it is irresponsible to give a salary increase when the money is not there. If you're not aware of what happened, there was a case of, just in the past few years, $5 million went out to increase salaries, and to counter that, because the money wasn't there, we had to make $4 million in staff cuts. the end of the day, our kids had fewer adults working with them. That wasn't best for students. It wasn't best for anyone other than the teachers who had the salary increase. What's been amazing to me is how many teachers I've met going door to door who told me.
We're going to start with Ms. Walker. What do you feel measures the success of a school? What do you feel a student that graduates from high school should be able to do?
So I think student achievement is extremely important. I don't have the education that some of the members up here, or some of the candidates up here have. However, I have been paying attention. I've been paying attention to what the community is saying. And I've been paying attention as homeowners come to me and they say, we'd like to live in the Francis Howell School District. Why do they want to live here? Because of student achievement. It all goes back to the kids. What do I feel that a student graduates from high school should be able to accomplish? Whatever they want. I hope that when they leave our schools, they have the confidence and that they have the abilities and the belief in themselves to be able to go out, and if that's go to college, go to college. If that's join the military, absolutely support that. For those of you that don't know, I'm actually a Navy veteran. I left 10 days out of high school in 1994, graduated from Francis Howell, and left and served my country. I got injured. I didn't stay in the entire 4 years. Went on and went to college at Mizzou. The foundation I received in Francis Howell schools gave me the ability to know I can do what I want to do, because I had those supports throughout while I was being molded into the person I am today.
What measures the success of the school? It is the success of the students. It's the health, it's the academic health of the school, it's the financial health of the school, it's teachers who are engaging in learning alongside the students. Guides on the sides, not necessarily sages on the stage. What do I feel a student that graduates from high school should be able to do? Contribute back to our society in whatever capacity they're passionate about. And again, for some that might be military, trade school, starting their own business, college, and so on and so forth. Whatever it is that they want to do, we need to make sure that they have the confidence to go forth and do that. I have perfect examples with my own children and many other friends of what Francis Howell did for them. I can also tell you that the curriculum and the academics have vastly improved from the time my sophomore college daughter was in 9th grade and my current daughter who's in 9th grade is in 9th grade. We have made nothing but improvements in the Francis Howell School District since I've been on the board. It's gotten better every year, and the outcomes are in the student achievement and what they're able to do. What measures the success of a school? It's also what's going on in that community and the health of the actual community. I came from North County. How many of you came from North County? I work with the school districts in North County right now. I work with them. I've seen what has happened to the districts in North County. I don't want to become North County. I don't want to go the way that the North County school districts have gone. So my commitment is to make sure that we are paying teachers industry standard. We were the lowest, we had the lowest pay. This is all fact checked. Everything I'm saying you can fact check. You can go to, again, public records to check it out. And so some of the decisions we made were to be pulling up to that level. We'll talk more.
I'm sorry, I thought we were on the next question. Okay, so what measures the success of the school, and what do you feel a student that graduates from high school should be able to do? I'm going to start with that second part. I believe that a student that graduates from high school should be able to do anything within their ability level. If a student who graduates wants to go to college, that student should be qualified and ready when they step off the high school campus to step onto a 2 or 4 year institution campus and they should be able to start college level work. They shouldn't be required to do remedial work, which at this time, more than 50% of Missouri graduates who step on to a college campus are doing remedial work, which is repeating high school subjects. If a student wishes to enter the workforce, they should have the skills that are necessary to succeed in that job that they choose. And then regarding the measures of success, I think there are multiple ways to measure success of a school. Student achievement certainly is one that we often point to, but also student character. When we walk through our community and we see students who hold their head up high and are proud of their behavior, and whose grandparents and parents are proud of their behavior, we know that our schools have served us well. And then also teacher recruitability. When we are very fortunate, we live in a district where teachers want to come to our district. And so I think that's a sign of success for our district. And community perspective fits in there also. How good of a job does our community perceive that we're doing as a school district? Because that's, as Michelle's pointed out, that's really what's going to affect our home values, is the community perception when you ask someone, what district should I move into? So all those things, student achievement.
This next question has, I'm sorry, yes, sorry.
That's okay. What measures of success of a school? First of all, it's the students that we graduate, and I couldn't get out of House on Hill without saying we do an awesome job. That's for you, Sonny. Our district has an extremely low dropout rate, and that's a credit to our staff, our teachers, our administration, and the parents in the district, as long as the kids. It's my understanding we only have about 40 dropouts this year, and we're being commended for that. So graduating kids is one of the most important success. As everyone up here has said, that any student should be a contributing member, and that can either be a doctor, a carpenter, an accountant, a teacher, garbage man, or member of the military. They're all contributing members of the community, and all very successful in their own right. I kind of looked at a couple different mission statements from different schools, and taking part of our mission statement, we say that our students should be responsible, respectful individuals who can problem solve and communicate with others. I think that's a very good place to start. I think that's a good part of our mission statement. Another one of the districts in the area I like theirs is it says ensure that all students are capable, curious, and confident learners who understand and respond to the challenges of an ever-changing world. I mean, it can't be said better than that, that we need to prepare kids to face any and all the challenges that they have. There are things that are going to happen in the next 5 years that we haven't even thought about, that haven't even been invented yet. So that's basically it. Thank you.
Now the next question, my apologies, Mr. Hay, has two parts and is longer, so candidates will again have 3 minutes to respond. First, what solutions do you have for our current problems that our district faces with budget cuts? And secondly, other than our current budgetary issues, what do you think is going to be the greatest challenge facing FHST in coming years, and how would you work to solve it?
Okay, what solutions do I have for current problems that our district faces, like budget cuts? I came from a school district called Rolla, Missouri, Rolla School District, and I can tell you that the smaller districts absolutely face these challenges all the time. And while I was in that district, we did a lot of creative partnering with the local businesses. And when I have to tell you, when I came to Francis Howell, I was kind of surprised by how much there was not partnering going on. And so that would be something that I would really want to pursue. Also, just more grant writing. There are some limitations to that, and grant writing can be very difficult. I've written grants before. It's almost a full-time job in and of itself, but that can be potentially a source of money or other kinds of support for our students and teachers. There's some just bizarre things that are going on out there, advertising on, know, buses. While I might not like that, if it was tasteful and appropriate, that might be something that we could consider. And so I just think there's a lot of creative things that we could do, and I don't have enough time to go into all of those ideas up here. But there was that little award that I mentioned on the business magazine cover the last month. Part of that was because of the creative out-of-box thinking that I have been able to accomplish at Lindenwood. Other than our current budgetary issues, what do I think is going to be the greatest challenge? I think just keeping up with the technologies, keeping our kids up to speed, the curriculum, the requirements, the 21st century skills are changing faster than we can blink our eyes. I don't know if any of you have little baby grandchildren. How many of you give them your phone to figure out? It's just changing so quickly, and those are some of the highest cost items in the district outside of the human resource cost as well. So that's definitely challenging. Just the networking, the support system that it takes to support all of that is probably one of the greatest challenges that we have. Also, perhaps, potentially, the demographics and receiving more diversity in our school district could potentially be challenging to meet those needs. The English as second language learners and those types of students that historically we have not had in this district, I think could potentially give us a great challenge in the future. It all, just takes a lot of creative thinking, outside of the box thinking, and working together. And again, I'm just going to encourage you, please, no matter what I say, no matter what you hear anybody up here say, I really encourage you to fact check what's being said about budget, about past decisions of the board, discussions, everything. I can't say that enough to you. Please fact check everything that you hear, including especially me. Thank you.
So the solution that I have thought of for some of the current budget cut problems, to start with, I don't believe that decisions about cuts can be made without putting student learning first. The fact is, we're in a position where cuts have to be made, and this decision isn't something that one person or even an elected board of 7 people should be making alone. The plan I would have in mind is first to get to the bottom of truly, where are we financially? I feel like it's been somewhat of a moving target. It changes a little bit here and there, but how much money do we really need to cut from our budget to have a healthy budget? I don't think that the entire cut can be made in one school year, but we need a plan for over the next however many years, can we cut back enough to get to that place where we have a balanced budget. Next, I think we need to understand where we can cut some of the budget. And I don't believe that it's the elected board's job to start nitpicking through the budget and saying, okay, you're going to cut the t-shirts out of your budget, you're going to cut the books out of your budget. I think instead percentages should be given to different employee groups, and those employee groups could be given the directive, you need to find 10% somewhere, so where do you want to cut it out of your budget? I work at a community college, and ever since 2010, we've been doing that every year. We knew it was coming, so we started making cuts. Our CFO tells us each campus is to cut this much. As an example, this year alone, we're working on a 10% cut to our budget for this next year. I'm thankful that my administrators at my campus don't just make those cuts. What they do is they talk to each of the employee groups at our building, and they ask us, where do you think we could cut from your area? And I think that that's a plan that we could instill here, letting some of the employee groups make some of that decision making, but giving them a number that says we need to cut X%. Next, the hard part is going to be following through. And this is where the board steps in and has to be part of that follow through. We have to start making some of those cuts and remembering in all of those cuts to put student learning first. So when we're deciding, do we cut this or do we cut this? We have to be thinking what is going to have the least negative effect on student learning. And then eventually, after we've been making more fiscally responsible, fiscally sound decisions, and we have a balanced budget, I do believe it would give us an opportunity, if we needed to let the community decide whether they want to increase our funding or not. And if they do want to increase funding after we've been more accountable with the money that we do have, then we could give the.
That's time.
What solutions I have? First of all, we need to balance the budget. And by doing that, we first must acknowledge that we have a problem. I think that there are some people in the district that understand that there are issues, but they don't truly understand and have the ability to identify the problem. But once we identify that we have a problem and acknowledge it, we need to work together. That'll involve the community, the students, and the staff to come up with real solutions to our budget issues. A lack of fiscal responsibility is the cause of our teacher layoffs, our larger class sizes, and the elimination of activities, and possibly, it's been talked about, the reduction of busing. We need better communication of facts, not opinions. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but there's only one set of facts. Better communication among board members, better listening to the public, and beginning a dialogue with all sides. As a Board of Education, we should be leading in communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. I've seen none of this happening on the current board. I've seen none of the 21st century skills that we tout every day our students are doing at any of the board meetings in the last year. Now moving on to the other issues and other challenges we have, I think the biggest challenge we're going to have is meeting the changing needs of our students. Technology and other emerging fields are challenging us to prepare our students for college and other career paths. Some of the things, like I said earlier, we don't even know that they don't even exist today, that they'll be working for, working toward. We need to foster and establish a good relationship with the legislature to make sure that they're not making decisions that would be detrimental to public education. The current board has started to rebuild these relationships, but the process needs to continue and will become a good solid line of communication. Bashing our state reps, senators, and even our own board members in public is not beneficial to our students and public education. Thank you.
So I'm going to start with the second part first. What do I see coming? I'm going to start with the date, June 29, 2007. The iPhone came out. Our school district has not asked the community for more money since 2004, 3 years prior to the iPhone coming out. So I think the technology and the technology needs of our school are going to be what we're facing in the future. We have a huge deficit. Cutting here, cutting there. Where on earth are we going to be able to cut $10 million? That's about the last estimate that I heard on where we're facing this coming school year. They've cut millions and millions and millions. As I've researched, 2011 they cut 100 teachers. So I think that what we need to do is I think we need to get rid of partisan politics on the school board. Stop beating up and blaming our teachers for the financial issues in our district. To ask our teachers to solve the financial problems, that's not their job. As a board member, we are the trusted community voice. That is the job of the board. I don't want to micromanage our school district. I believe that's for the administration to do. But a solid board will have a solid administration, and they can bring forth new ideas. Some of the things that we've talked about in the community relations and strategic planning committees over the past 5 years are alternative funding sources. It's already been mentioned, but who's opposed to seeing an ad on the bus? We would have to be very careful in how we wrote those policies, because we certainly don't want a strip club being advertised on our buses. However, there are lots and lots of ideas and ways that we can engage our community, and we can reach out to some of the major stakeholders and say, here's the thing. If our property values go down, your business will be impacted. Can we count on you for a corporate sponsorship or a corporate partnership with our district? Maybe some of our high school kids can be involved in some of these businesses and some of these community organizations in return for
30 seconds.
so these alternative funding, these things have been talked about for years. Grants, that's another one. There are all kinds of grants out there. If we're not already taking advantage of, we should be. One thing that I personally have done, along with a few other alumni, we started an alumni association 2 years ago. I don't just talk the talk. We have raised almost $15,000 that we have contributed to district programs in the past 2 years.
That's time.
What do you feel our district excels at, and what are you most proud of when it comes to our district?
Our district excels at a lot, and obviously as we've heard with the property values, our property values are benefited by having schools that excel. One of the things we excel at is we have teachers, we have some of the top teachers in the area, not just in the county, but in the area. I got to witness an example of that myself recently. I recently enrolled a new student in one of our elementary schools, and it was a delightful process, but the best part of that was that little guy's first day of second grade here in the Francis Howell district. And that teacher sent me an email midday to give me an update on how he was doing with his new school. By the end of the day, she sent me a recap of here's how the day ended, and we're so happy to have him. And this was clearly the actions of a teacher who loves her job, the actions of a teacher who cared greatly for children. And it's the sign of a teacher who's just exceptional at the job that she does. And so one of the things we excel at is we do have some of the best teachers in the area. And I don't know that I've heard anyone ever dispute that. Another thing that we do really well, in addition to having some of the best teachers in the area, we have some of the best students in the area. That's not just because of the schools, it's largely to do with our community and the way that you are raising your children. But we have some of the best students in the area. They do very well on standardized testing. They are invited to selective colleges and universities. One of these young ladies, I hope you don't mind if I share this, one of these young ladies was sharing she has a full ride scholarship to the school that she's going to next year. And we have lots of students like that in the Francis Howell district who are offered high-level scholarships to great schools.
You ready? Okay. What do we excel at? I'm going to take a little different spin on this at first, and I'll get to the real issue. But what do we excel at? We excel at spending. We're our own worst enemy. Our CFO is one of the most knowledgeable in the state. He's probably one of the best in the state, if not the best in the state. We have a very good idea of how much money we're going to get from the state and other sources, and yet the board still decided to spend money they did not have, and we're not anticipating. The board of administration willfully and knowingly spent this money they did not have, but that's another side. But no kidding aside, the Francis Howell District continues to provide a great educational experience for our kids. We have one of the best schools in the St. Louis area. We have one of the best schools in the state. We have national schools of character. We receive national recognition for our high schools and our other schools. Repeatedly, we have award-winning teachers throughout the district in many different aspects, and we just have a great district. The thing that I'm most proud of is how our schools interact with the community. From Veterans Day and providing money for honor flights for our veterans, to food drives and providing Thanksgiving and Christmas for families in need. We have joint activities with other schools, such as Coaches with Cancer, and we raise thousands of dollars to help
30 seconds.
to find a cure and support those that are fighting cancer. We continue to instill in our students that it's not just about us, but about engaging other communities, as well as even rivals, our competitors on the field. We can work together for a greater cause than winning a game by competing and playing for a cure. And I believe, and I know this for a fact, that we have the most caring students, families, and staff in St. Charles County, and I would say in the entire state.
So I think our district excels at preparing our students for life. I think that we've excelled at building an amazing reputation. I think that we are compared to schools like Clayton, Rockwood, Parkway. We're not compared to Francis or Fort Zumwalt or Wentzville. However, I will tell you, in St. Charles County last year, Francis Howell led the way as far as median home prices. Can I tell you, we lost that this year to Wentzville. Maybe because of the age of the housing stock, may have something to do with it, but what I'm most proud of in the district is that we encourage our children to be good citizens. Don't just read and write. You are an active, participatory person in this community, and your opinions matter. They teach character education. It's been fun to have my kids come home and they have these little songs and games and things that they're doing in school. They're building their character. It's not just about what's in the textbook. So I'm very proud that our schools are really focusing on the entire student, not just what's in the textbook. As far as we have a spending problem, I heard that all summer last year, and I heard it for a couple months after that. But then the same folks that said we have a spending problem, not a funding problem, are the folks that are now asking for a tax increase. That are now saying, oh, we don't want to make any more cuts. Now let's get a tax increase on the ballot as soon as humanly possible. Our community told us that was not what they wanted. So I believe it's extremely irresponsible to go back to the community now after a 2-to-1 decline.
That's time.
What do I feel our district excels at? I feel our district excels at what, and I'm going to defer to my daughters who are part of the district, preparing them for life. My oldest daughter graduated from Francis Howell High. She was the president of DECA. She came into 9th grade really, really shy, not really knowing what she wanted to do, and because of some fantastic teachers, she became senior year president of DECA, went on to start a new chapter of DECA at a university that did not have one, went on to take her first team to state. They won, they went to internationals. She ran for national vice president, and she won as a freshman, unheard of. Now, am I bragging? Of course. I'm proud of her, but I'm going to tell you that it wasn't because of me that happened. It wasn't because of my husband that happened. It was because of 2 awesome teachers at Francis Howell High School that are the business ed teachers there, and they are advisors and go above and beyond serving those students. So we excel at teachers going above and beyond. My younger daughter is experiencing the same types of things in singing and the musical, the music teachers that she has. The extra care that the content teachers take to make sure that these kids understand their homework and give them chances to master the program. That's what we excel at. And so I'm most proud of that. But also, we excel at budgets. As was indicated, we have the best CFO in the state. He's won an award 7 years in a row. 7 years in a row, because we have strong budgets. He's a great budget guy. We believe him when he tells us things. We trust him when he tells us things. He's received 7 years of awards of being the best CFO in the state.
That's time.
Fact check that too. Thanks.
At this time, we're going to open up questions to all of the community members that are in the audience. So if you have a question, if you could please raise your hand.
Could you, this is really a question for each of you, and it's kind of a yes or no. Do you have a relative in the district? And if that currently works for the district? And if you do, explain how you can reconcile that conflict. Thank you.
No, I have no relatives who are currently working in the school district.
I do have a son-in-law who is employed by the district, and as anybody else, any and all things that are involved with that individual on an individual basis, I would be required to abstain from voting for that. If it was a general policy issue or something that pertains to any and all teachers, I would be able to vote on that, but I probably would abstain just as a matter of principle.
I'm not related to anybody that works to the district.
I'm related to a 9th grader who works very hard in this district. She's working on homework right now. She might be at Wednesday night church too, but outside of that, though, she doesn't get paid, at least by the district, when she brings home good grades, so I am not related.
Mrs. Weiss, and this sort of goes to Mrs. Walker too. First of all, if I could ask, Mrs. Weiss, how long have you been on the board? May I ask?
Since 2010.
Okay. You mentioned advertising on school buses. You talked about other alternative funding sources. You've been on the board 4 years. How many of those alternative funding sources have we done?
Not any yet. It's not typically a school of thought. Look around at different other communities. It's not typically done here. And I'm one board member, and you really need something like that to come up from the grassroots. But I think, when desperate times come for desperate measures, and perhaps some of those things might be more realistically considered now than they might have been in 2010.
Those things have been talked about since the 80s, by the way.
Right. Oh, I agree. That's when I was in Raleigh, by the way. Did you want to hear from Mrs. Walker?
If she would like that.
I've not served on the board before. However, I will tell you that in the Community Relations Committee, and Mr. Hayden and I have served on that committee together in the past, those are discussions that we have had. And it's been very frustrating to see them go nowhere. So I feel more frustration there, because some of the things that we're doing now, like the Senior Pals program, we've been talking about it for 5 years. After Prop Y didn't pass, the school board realized we have got to communicate with everybody.
Hi, this question is for Ms. Granger. In your introduction, you've listed several different jobs that you've held over the years. It makes you kind of feel like there's really no long-term commitment in any of those endeavors. So is this something that's going to be a short-term commitment, or is this a long-term commitment for you?
Well, I'm not sure what long-term or short-term would be for you, but I've been a math professor at the St. Louis Community College for 9 years now. My 11 years before that, I taught in different schools and different levels of schools. So I started out teaching in some middle schools, and then after I had the master's degree, I wanted to move over to teaching at the community college, so I made a shift there. But I do plan to be here in the community for a while and have no plans of leaving my job. I love the work that I do at the St. Louis Community College. Does that answer your question?
This is a question for all of you. If you were to hear rumors of something not going well in the district, a program, maybe a school, just something that you're hearing is not going well, how would you address that?
That's an easy one. First, you just listen. So those of us who have been on the board understand that's what you do, you listen. And then you refer them to typically, if it's a teacher, have you talked to the teacher? Encourage them to talk to the teacher, encourage them to go back and talk to the principal. Sometimes they just almost kind of need permission to do that, that's okay. And ultimately, you refer them back to whatever central office personnel, superintendent's office. You don't take it upon yourself to solve the issue. You don't micromanage the issue. You are discreet about the issue, but you listen. It's okay to listen, but you refer it back. But you always refer it back to somebody. You don't want people to be blindsided, and you want them to know, hey, there's somebody that's got concerns.
I can reference that from some of my experience as a department chair at a community college in the mathematics department. So believe me, there are a lot of student complaints that come in of all different levels. And as I hear a student complaint, I listen to that and talk with them to try to dig deeper at what the issue was. And then so I could kind of relate that to that as being something like a rumor maybe. But after listening, I do the very best I can as I'm listening, not to give any indication of what my opinion is of their situation, or any indication of how it's going to be resolved. But I leave it with the student by saying, I'm going to talk to the other people who are involved, usually their instructor, and I'm going to make sure that we get back to you. And I always start, by the way, by have you gone to your instructor and talked to them first. But then after getting more facts, so I think with a rumor, that's the next step. You're always, after you listen, you have to be ready to collect more facts, not from one place, but from multiple places, and then go back to that person. And I always hold those students accountable, as I would if I ever heard a rumor directly from someone, to go back to them and say, I wanted to follow up with you and share with you that you had an impression that this was the case, but I've gotten to the bottom of it, and that's actually not true. This is the facts that you maybe were missing. So following up with holding someone accountable if they were spreading something that wasn't quite true.
I'm not sure I asked my question clearly, because I didn't mean a complaint. I was like, if you're hearing from multiple people that there's an issue, how would you address something like that?
I think that they both kind of answered it the same way that I would, but if you're talking about a program or a new curriculum that's being rolled out, it's going to be the same response. We're going to listen, and as a board member, this is what I did when I was on the board, and as Cindy said, you're going to listen first of all, and then you're going to refer it back to the person that it needs to be referred back to. Some instances it goes back to a teacher, some instances it go back to the principal in that building, and in some instances it's going to have to go to the administrative office. A lot of times people feel frustrated, I've already talked to my teacher, they're not doing anything, or I've talked to the counselor and they can't help me, or, at that point in time, you're going to refer them to the central office staff, the office of the superintendent, and they will allocate and direct who's going to be responsible for that. And one of the things that I would always do when I'm on the board is I'd always follow up with the superintendent to make sure that was actually done. We need to make sure that we do follow through, because every complaint or concern is very important to that person, and if one person has a concern, there's probably a lot more that just haven't expressed that concern. One of the other things that a lot of people think is that as being a board member, that you are responsible, you hire and fire everybody in the district. Ultimately, the board has one employee only, and that is the superintendent. That is the only employee that we hire and fire. That is the only employee that we are responsible for. We do approve as a board. We do approve all hirings and firings, and those are recommended from the superintendent and the principals and their building administrations and that. But the superintendent is the only employee that the board of directors has.
So as a new board member, I would probably have questions. So I would reach out to the staff or the administration and ask the questions after I've listened and tried to gather the facts. If it's a rumor, then typically those aren't facts. I do think that just from the limited knowledge that I have, I believe it's very irresponsible of a board member to go investigating these things themselves and getting back to the patron or the parent. I think we will open ourselves up for lawsuits if we as board members are trying to deal with direct issues with students.
Good evening. My question is for Mr. Hayne. Mr. Hayne, you brought up the issue of budget. In fact, you said that the existing school board exceeds and overspending. But isn't it true that while you were on the board, you voted in the affirmative for 6 budgets in a row? And in fact, you approved teacher increases for 2 years. And just like Dr. Weiss said, I would encourage everybody to do their fact check.
Okay, great. I appreciate you asking me that question. Did I vote for the budget? Yes. I voted for 6 budgets in a row. I am the only board member, and you can check this out on board docs if you like. I am the only board member that did not vote for the last 4 years of teacher increases. The first year when they were 2.5 and 2.5, I was, let me get it here so I make sure I get the exact year. When it was 3.7 and 3.7 in 2012-13 and 13-14. Our CFO gave us a budget that showed us that it was not sustainable to provide these type of increases. So I voted against those increases. The second time in year 14-15 and the 15-16 contract years, at which there were 6.5% increases and 5% increases. I was not present at that meeting. That was a 6-0 vote. You can go back and look at it. I missed that meeting. My wife had breast cancer. She completed her treatment. She's in remission. And the day of the board meeting, she had completed her last chemo treatment. And forgive me, but I chose my family and my wife over voting at the board meeting. And I did not vote on that contract. So you can go back and check the board docs, you can go back and check the facts. I did not vote for the contracts. I did vote for the budget, because if you have allocated contracts and you have contracts out there, you have obligations and you have to move forward with those. I did vote for the budget. You are correct. If you want to get back to this is not about teachers. I think some people have tried to make this about teachers. I have never once said our teachers are paid too much. We have great teachers. This isn't about teachers' pay. This is about the board spending money that they do not have.
I appreciate you candidates stopping when you're supposed to stop the presidential election, because they're not out tonight. I appreciate you guys' diligence in doing that. This question is also for Mr. Hayne. Mr. Hayne, when you were on the school board, you had pushed for and achieved turf fields. Turf fields cost the school district approximately $5 million for all the fields. We currently have a liability out there to replace these fields 9 years from now, and we have no provisions in our budget to replace the turf fields that you fought for. How do you plan on replacing the turf fields when we have limited funds now?
Great question. First of all, turf fields are improving their benefits to the district, not only for the Francis Howell district, but to districts across the St. Louis area. Wentzville had just approved their turf fields for their 3 schools. The St. Charles School District has turf fields. Zumwalt has turf fields. Turf fields allow us to utilize one of the largest areas of our schools on a daily basis. Prior to the utilization of turf fields, and I could talk to you for this about hours because I did all the research before I proposed it to the district. Prior to having turf fields, we were able to use our fields 40 to 50 times a year. and we spent about $40,000 to $50,000. So it's about $1,000 per use. Nowadays, we have 6 to 8 gym classes out there every hour of every period. We use them before school. We use it after school. There are a lot of bands that we have good bands in our area. A lot of bands won't even come if you're having a band competition unless you have turf fields because they don't want it to get canceled. So the turf fields have been one of the best things that we've done. As far as the replacement of the turf fields, it won't be a $5 million replacement. It's about half to a third of that cost because you still have the underlayment is good. What you do is you suck all the tar stuff out of it and put new stuff down. But it's just the turf fields are no different than any of our other buildings or any of our other things that we have in the district, like roofs, lights, parking lots. Everything has an economic life, and as part of the facilities committee, we have taken and put every item, all of our buildings are itemized, and everybody should take an opportunity to look at the work that's gone into that program. But we have itemized every single building as to the age of the roof, the age of the HVAC systems, and everything else, and that way we have a good understanding of what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and we can plan forward for replacements and replacement costs to maintain economic life on all these items. And the turf fields are nothing like anything else. They're just like all the other items. They're just like a roof or anything else. They will need to be replaced at some point in time.
For each of you, what is your greatest strength or skill set that you feel you bring to the board?
I believe that one of my greatest strengths is I try to be proactive, not reactive, and I use a lot of common sense in my decisions. One of the things that this district is moving forward, we're moving into a new 5-year strategic plan. I believe that's inadequate for a district. Most of the major companies and organizations in America today and across the world have 15, 20, 30-year strategic plans. We have a 5-year strategic plan, which is necessary, but I think we need to be looking beyond that. I think we need a 10-year plan, a 15-year plan. Now, obviously, the farther out you go with these plans, the more flexibility you're going to have and the more ability to change that you're going to have in there. But I think just, being able to read the issues, cut through the facts, and be able to, read the documents, and, I believe that in a balanced budget, I believe that we shouldn't spend money we don't have, and had we followed those rules and followed those practices, we wouldn't be in the issues we are today.
So in August, the school board tried to be proactive. They asked the community for an increase in the tax levy. Our community probably didn't respond because it was proactive. They didn't see a reason that we needed the funds. They had board members telling them we're just overspending. So I wanted to share a little bit of historical data. They had given us a question and they asked something about my website. So many people have asked, why did I support Prop Y? I did my research and I saw that our school board only levies what they believe they need. That's why we don't have a surplus. Over the past 10, 12 years since the last tax levy, they have not taxed our community $30 million. We would not be facing the issues we're facing right now had they have been more proactive. But then we would hear people in the community saying, why on earth do you have such a high fund balance? That's irresponsible as well. So I supported Prop Y because our district told us that is what they needed. So 89 cents was approved in 2004. 69 cents of that was permanent, and 20 cents was a special purpose levy. Last year, that went away. So not only did a tax increase not pass, our tax amount was actually less than it had been over the last years. The board voted and they rolled back 25 cents of that levy that they would have been able to tax because maybe they were being responsible. Maybe they weren't taking more than they needed. So the facts and things that you can see on my website, this information came from Mr. Supple, the Director of Finance for the district. So I believe these things to be accurate. It's the same information we shared at the FHSD team meeting. But I think that they showed they were somewhat responsible, or we'd have a whole bunch of money sitting in the bank right now.
I'll share, you asked what we believe our greatest strengths are. I think one of my strengths is that I'm a very logical and research-oriented thinker. So when I'll tell you now, it drives my husband nuts that we don't make any decisions without me saying, well, let me get a piece of paper. And I write everything out and try to go through it logically. But at the same time, I do believe I'm a very thoughtful and caring and listening kind of a person. You often get a stereotypical view of a science or math professor as being just all numbers, but I do think I balance that really well and listen and care and empathize with people, but then when it comes down to making decisions very logically and looking up the research and just having the ability to know where to go to find that research, where you find what has worked well in other schools, and how to scale that up to a district like ours.
My strength, I believe, is the fact that I see gray areas, and I've got high discernment levels. What does that mean? I can really sift through what people are saying, and I am thoughtful about it. I understand that everybody that has an opinion has a different experience, and I try not to judge them for it. I will tell you that I sometimes get really bummed out when I feel like I'm being judged for it. I try to be respectful, and I try to treat others as I'd like to be treated myself. I'm very cognizant of that, and I try to model that every day. I try to be encouraging. I try to think outside the box. So maybe you were just wanting to know one strength. I've listed maybe several, but that's that counselor thing in me. And so I really, again, just try to see people where they're at, meet them where they're at, and try to truly understand where they're coming from. And then, my decisions then are based on really being empathetic, sympathetic with where people are. And, sometimes that makes people happy, sometimes I guess that doesn't. But I do feel like I take everybody's viewpoints into account and I listen. I really listen. And I'm not beholden to any one group of stakeholders at all. Never have been. In fact, people probably kind of see me as the silo in the group. I pretty much stay to myself when other board members go out for dinner. They go out to Applebee's afterwards and have a drink or whatever. I purposely stay away. I don't think that that's a healthy board. So I really try to stay independent. I keep my cards close to my chest, and I really just try to listen to the stakeholders.
I can appreciate all the talk that we've had tonight about fiscal responsibility, being a taxpayer in the district myself. I'd like to bring up the issue of Common Core. How many of you running for the board are against Common Core? That's against Common Core.
Are you ready for an answer?
Well,
I'm sorry, I can't see your eyes because of the lights. I'm not sure if you're finished or not.
No, I've got a few more things that I could ask. I just thought I'd find out which of you were in favor and which of you were against.
Can I have an answer besides a yes and a no? Because I think there's, again, that gray area context. First of all, Common Core isn't part of Missouri curriculum anymore. It was voted out last year, so it's not even an issue. Ironically, what you need to know is two extremely diverse groups of people politically don't like Common Core. So most of the teachers' unions in the nation, as well as probably more conservative think tanks, did not like Common Core. There are components of Common Core, such as big data and things like that scare people, and I'm completely scared with them too. So I understood that, and I didn't like Common Core for that reason. But I am going to go back to my 9th grade daughter and the differences in her learning based upon what my sophomore college daughter had experienced. Part of that came from improvement and more accountability in curriculum. So I think that's a gray area. You can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. And am I for it or against it? I like to be independent. I like for there to be local control over things. But we were mandated by the government to have that for a while. And it cost a lot of money. And no one person can single-handedly change the curriculum. No one person can single-handedly change the curriculum overnight. Curriculum writing, curriculum alignment is very, very expensive. So I think the district currently they're looking at the situation we're in now, but curriculum is always evolving as well. And a lot of it is in the language that we used. Back when I was in Rama, it was outcome-based education that was the hated thing. But there could potentially be, some parts of that realignment work that the teachers worked so hard for and the district had to pay so much money for, that might be okay. And I can see the evidence in that in my 9th grade daughter. Am I for Common Core? Not any more than anybody else in this room. But it was a lot of money invested, a lot of time, and you just can't throw out an entire curriculum overnight. And besides that, it wasn't our decision. That was not a board decision to adopt that. We were mandated to adopt it. And now Missouri no longer has it, thank God. We're the show me state, we got rid of it. So we move forward from there. So I know that's not a yes or no answer to your question, but that's actually the truth. And that's the full comprehensive answer to the story of Common Core.
Well, I appreciate your answer because when I addressed the school board before, I was never able to get any answers because you can make your statement and you got to sit down and not receive any feedback whatsoever.
I hate that, don't you?
Yes.
We don't like that either.
Did you want the rest of us to answer, Joanne? So I'm interested. It's interesting that Dr. Bice shared that the teachers union was opposed to Common Core. Because I am opposed to Common Core because I don't believe in the data mining that it is set up to do. I don't believe in the federal government overstepping their place. I believe in more local control over our children's curriculum. But it's interesting to me because when I've had interviews with the teachers union, I got long lectures about why my opinion of opposition to Common Core was wrong. I found that very interesting. It was an interview where I was being interviewed, but I was lectured to about my views being wrong. So, but I guess that's neither here nor there. But I am opposed to it also just because I don't approve of some of the values that Common Core has tried to instill in the curriculum, and I don't believe that school curriculum is where some of those values belong.
Yeah, I'll make it real quick. Not for Common Core, not for national control, not for data mining, but I am for higher standards for kids.
I second that. I can tell you it's a lot harder to help my daughter with her math. I can tell her the answers all day long, but I can't figure out how I came up with that answer. The curriculum is definitely more difficult. For or against Common Core, it's not a thing in Missouri anymore, and I wasn't on the board when it was. So I don't have all the details and all the data, but I think it's a difficult thing to campaign on something that is no longer in existence in the state.
We're going to take one more question.
So my question is for Mr. Haynes. You stated in the but nothing else was mentioned in that article, so I have to ask, do you believe that that is the sole cause of the budget deficit, and are you against raises altogether?
No, I am not against raises. Honestly, I don't believe we could pay our teachers enough. It's a shame that our teachers aren't held to the same standards as professional athletes. And that because I think everybody in this room, including myself, can go back and remember a teacher that had a significant impact on their life. So what I'm saying is none of this is about the teachers. It is about the fact that raises were given that we could not afford. It's a constant balancing act. If we had the money available, you can raise salaries. If you don't have the money available, you can't raise salaries. And that's what the board did. I mean, I will respectfully disagree with Ms. Walker that I believe that the tax levy that was placed on the ballot in August as a sole issue that cost us, the taxpayers, almost 5 or 6 teachers' salaries to place on the ballot was not proactive, it was reactive because they had already spent the money. They had approved budgets with deficits proposed deficits of $22 and $28 million, and they approved those. They knew what they were doing when they approved these additional raises and causes. We had $50 million in reserves when this process started. You cannot use reserve for permanent, ongoing, reoccurring expenses. Those budget reserves are for your rainy day fund, one-time repairs, one-time expenses. You can't use those for salaries. If we need to increase teachers' pay, we need to go out and ask the voters for additional money to do so. And the board did not.
Finally, I get to tell the rest of the story from my perspective. And it's my perspective, and I, again, ask that you fact check. So last year, we gave a survey to the community members, and we received the results of that survey sometime in mid to late spring. We were also given the potential, budget and the issues that might be detrimental with the budget about the same time. That's the time that the board always, looks over all of our issues financially and we make decisions. So it was our belief that survey surveyed the community. There was a trend on that survey that told us that if there were financial issues in the district, would the community members support a tax levy? And the answers on that survey indicated that yes, they very well may. So again, we've heard that we're data-driven and research-based and everything. We were listening to the survey. We were also listening to what was being said to us by our CFO about the budget. So this can be fact-checked. Everybody, I encourage you. I know it's not the most exciting thing, but there is a work session, and we talked a lot, and it's videotaped, and you can hear what everybody said. The amounts were discussed and debated. The timing of the election was discussed and debated. I personally thought that if it's going to happen, let's do it in November. But then we were told at that point in time that November would be too late for that year's budget. That if we were going to do it, we had to do it in August. The problem is that we were still in this question mark. We didn't know how much money was going to come in from all the funding sources at that time. So based upon the survey, based upon what we were told the forecast of the budget would be, based upon the timing of the election and the ability to potentially gain that money, we made the decision, and you will hear me repeatedly saying, the survey says that the community members would support this if we needed it. It looks like we need it. Let's let them decide. Let's let them decide. I said that repeatedly. Well, the only thing that I'm going to tell you, the major thing that I learned that I wish I would have known in advance of that, and I'll be transparent with you, I was sorry I didn't pursue this answer. I didn't realize that it was going to cost more to put it in August. That shame on me. I'll never make that mistake again. Never, ever, ever. I found out too late. But we did make a decision, we did vote on it, and that's how it happened. But in those same conversations, from my perspective personally, I said at that time, if it doesn't pass for whatever reason, we're going to have to do our homework, and I'm not going to be ready to put it on the ballot for a long time until grassroots, from the grassroots, they're knocking on my door, begging me to put it back on because of what's going to be, happening if we don't. So that's, from Cindy Bice's perspective, what happened. Shame on me for not understanding the cost of the election. That's my bad, maybe that'll cost me the election. But I wasn't planning on running again, by the way. So I can't, well, that's another story I can share with you too. But it was just one of those things that, I said a little bit about, discernment, and there's very complex layers to making decisions at the board. It's not just a simple, campaign, slogan that you can throw out there. There's a lot of thought, and if you don't understand how much thought goes into that, please look at the work session videos. Look at them. Hindsight's always better, right, though? Hindsight's always better. So what we have learned since then is that, while we thought we were getting input from the community by that survey, it wasn't enough. We weren't reaching enough people. And so there have been practices started since that. We did learn and we moved forward, and I think we're improving many of those practices. And I'm proud of the fact that we could learn and move forward. But that's the rest of the story, as that one guy on the radio says.